We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Monday, so you know shit's about to pop. Every week, there's something new. Every week, we see more evidence, or there's more scandals, or just more shit talking. And you know that's going to occur. Donald Trump has not even come close to shutting his mouth, in spite of the fact that two judges have told him to. Maybe we'll see some movement as to some accountability for Donald Trump for flapping his gums, but we don't know that yet. We'll see what happens. And of course, we've got to deal with the impending shutdown of the government. We'll talk about that some. We're running out of days. It's like 4 days before they have to shut down the country, and the House of Representatives isn't even working today. They're not coming in Monday. They're coming in Tuesday. So they'll have like 3 days, maybe 4 days to get this done. It's amazing. You know what's interesting? I found a fact that I didn't realize. I knew the House of Representatives under Kevin McCarthy and with the Republicans as the majority, they weren't doing much work. They weren't accomplishing anything. But I found this out between June 4th, or June 24th, I'm sorry, and September 11th, about 2.5 months. The House of Representatives were only in session 11 days out of 2.5 months. Now, of course, this whole thing with the budget and appropriations and the possibility of shutting down the country isn't something that just popped up or cropped up now. This isn't a surprise to them. This is something that's been going on for a while. They knew it was coming. Fact is, they knew it was coming after they resolved the debt ceiling situation. But in spite of that, what did the Republicans do with those 11 days they actually worked over a 2.5 month period? Well, most of that time was focused on trying to figure out how to impeach Joe Biden. It seems ironic, but it's a very good illustration of what I've said all along. Republicans don't want to accomplish anything. All they really want to do is try to own the libtards, try to regain power, try to get elected, and try to make money. In spite of the fact they were elected to serve us and serve this country, that doesn't seem to matter to them at all. So they don't fucking do it. I still have this bit in my head that says at the last minute, they'll figure out some extension to give themselves another month or two to get this done. There's no way they're going to resolve the whole situation, I don't think, and get the deal done by October 1st. There's just not enough time, and nobody is willing to negotiate. Now, the big problem isn't the Democrats and the Republicans, it's the Republicans. Because within the Republican Party, there's so much divisiveness. They can't agree on anything. And if they can't agree on anything, they can't even bring the Democrats into this. So I think some Democrats are sitting back and saying, these guys are fuck ups. Let them sink themselves. Because frankly, if the country does get shut down, the Republicans most certainly will get the blame. And it's not going to do well for them come 2024. I mean, they've got enough problems overturning Roe v. Wade, gun control, all this other shit that's going to sink them in 2024. The last thing they need is to shut down the government. That said, we've got people in the Freedom Caucus, or MAGA, that are excited about the prospect of shutting down the country because they're not about doing anything but creating chaos and serving their Lord and Master, Donald Trump. Donald Trump seems to think that if they shut down the country, that's going to do him some good. It'll either embarrass Joe Biden, which it won't, because it's the Republicans doing it, or maybe he thinks that once they shut down the country, all the upcoming trials for his 91 felonies will shut down too. Well, we talked about this yesterday. That's not true. I would hope somebody has told Donald Trump this by now. But of course, Donald Trump isn't the greatest listener. He doesn't listen to shit. So we're going to see what's going to happen with this shutdown. I hope they don't do it. I got an email, an old soul was the only emailer today, and she's going to break down on what this really do. So we'll get to that in a moment. Now, yesterday I had a pretty lazy day. I didn't do much. I did some TikToks, did some house work around the house, did a little shopping, but I had an interesting experience. I was out shopping. Now, I shouldn't even call it shopping. I was out buying. I'm like most men, unlike most women, like my wife. If she goes in shopping, it's a little bit of time because she's looking at all the things and is this cute? Is that cute? She loves shopping, but she's very sale conscious. She doesn't spend tons of money. She won't buy anything unless it's an absolute deal. But I remember when my youngest son used to go out with her shopping on a weekend. I'd be doing something at home. She'd take the little guys out and go shopping. And the moment I went shopping with my son one time, and he runs ahead of me. He goes and grabs a T-shirt off a off a rack. He grabs the T-shirt. He holds it out for me. He goes, "Dad, is this cute?" I said, "Son, you're going to stay home with me from now on." And it's funny now that he's grown up, he can give a shit about what's cute or not cute, and he's got about as much fashion sense as I do. Anyway, as I'm driving to go do my buying, um, I'm kind of hungry. I have type 2 diabetes and I hadn't eaten anything all day. And when that happens, I start to feel a little nauseous. I don't feel right. So I know I've got to eat something. So I decided that whatever I see, whatever comes up next, that's where I'm going to go because I just need to eat something. I'm not eating for pleasure here. I'm just going to eat whatever. So the first thing that comes up is a Wendy's. Now I haven't been in a Wendy's for a long time, mainly because there's none around here, and because I like Culver's better if I'm going to eat fast food. I don't eat a lot of fast food, but there's some I just won't eat. Anyway, I go into this Wendy's and I go up and order a Dave's double combo, double hamburger, fries, and some kind of soda because I'm watching it. Hey, I didn't get the Frosty. I could have got the Frosty. My wife wasn't there. Nobody was watching, but there was somebody watching because as I'm standing there, I pay my bill and I'm waiting for it to come up. Somebody taps me on the shoulder, which is weird because I'm in an area where I don't know people. Taps me on the shoulder. I look over and there's this young man, probably in his 40s, maybe early 40s. And he says to me, "Are you on TikTok?" And it's funny when people recognize me, it's when I least expect it. I look at him and I go, yeah, actually I am. And he says, "I watch you all the time. I watch you all the time." He says, "I don't remember your name though." I go, "You don't remember my name?" I said, "Shit, I'm going to have to make a call to the branding department and straighten that shit out." He goes, "What?" I go, "I'm kidding. Just kidding. Rational Boomer, Mike." So, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's right." So I'm thinking he sees me from time to time, and he said, "I love what you're doing. I appreciate it." And I said, "I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate you coming up to me and talking to me." And he goes off back to eat with his family. It's his wife and him and two kids, boy and a girl, I think, and what appears to be a grandmother. And they're having a good time having their lunch. I go grab my stuff. Now, I'm not a guy who gets self-conscious at all, but for a minute I'm thinking, okay, this is a little weird. I'm going to go sit at a table by myself, eating my Dave's double combo. Now I got to make sure I don't spill on myself or something. And then I said to myself, what are you doing? Just fucking eat. Don't worry about that shit. You don't worry about it normally anyway. So anyway, I eat my meal and they're eating their meals, and I get up and I'm going to walk out. So I give them a wave, just acknowledging them again as I'm walking out the door. And his wife says, "I'm so jealous." I go, "What's that about?" She said, "I'm jealous that he found you before I did." I go, "Oh, you watch too." She goes, yeah, I do. I said, well, that's fabulous. I love it when younger people are watching. That is a validation for me that I'm doing this for a reason and people are getting something out of it. And she was very nice. The kids looked at me like, who the fuck is this clown? Grandma could have given a shit. But this couple were very nice. And the only thing that upsets me is that whenever I get recognized in the wild, as it were, my wife's never around. She's never been with me when I've been recognized. My brother has 2 times, but my wife has never been. So when I come home, I go, hey, honey, somebody recognized me. She goes, oh, nice. Anyhow, those folks were very nice and I appreciate them coming up to me. And I just want to say to folks too, some people who've come up to me that recognize me seem reluctant to talk. They think they're bothering me or whatever. Fuck, I'm just a guy. I'm nobody special. And so you come up, feel free to talk, ask questions, do whatever you want. Because usually what happens, because I don't stop talking, as you no doubt know, somebody will come up and start a conversation with me. And before I cut them off, they will say to me, oh, look at the time. I got to go. Because I don't shut up. I will talk to anybody endlessly if they're willing to talk. So if you're out there and you see me, don't feel shy. You're not bugging me. And if my wife's with me, definitely come up. I need her to see this shit. All right. We'll get to an email. We don't have emails plural. We do have one email, but you can plan on it being a good one because it's from none other than your favorite Old Soul. Love hearing from her. Loved having her on the show, and with the reaction from the people that listen to the podcast, clearly we need to have her on more. I know she's listening, so that's a hint, Old Soul. And actually, that's a hint to all you folks. People love all the listeners who come on. Old Soul is a favorite, obviously, but every one of you do a great job. And I'm always looking to have more people come on the show because it's interesting to get other people's input and perceptions. All right. This email is from Old Soul, and it's basically talking about the shutdown. It's actually very informative. She taught me a few things here, too. She says, hey, Boomer, I thought I sent an email the other day, but it looks like I didn't. So she actually sent 2 emails. I'll attach it below. Before I do, people have been asking for details of what a possible shutdown looks like. I have a list made from different organizations and programs. In addition to defunding Jack Smith and the FBI, Republicans demand an 8% cut in their CR. Here's what that 8% cut looks like and who will be affected. I'll give you a hint. It doesn't affect millionaires, billionaires, and corporations paying taxes or paying their fair share. Anyway, she says how a shutdown impacts the economy. By the way, that 8% and whatever the Republicans want, they're not getting that. They want to cut Medicare and Social Security. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But anyway, should we get shut down? And that's a distinct possibility. I know I've been one that says I don't think it's going to happen, but I've been wrong before. I've been wrong at least for 3 or 4 times today. My wife has pointed that out. Anyhow, how a shutdown impacts the economy. Travel delays due to federal furloughs. Food and safety inspections will be impacted. 4 million federal employees will be without a paycheck and unable to participate in the economy. So not only will they have tough times, but whatever they buy or pay for will be affected as well. Military service members will stop getting checks. Oh, that's a great thing. Our military won't get paid. Businesses near military bases or military towns will suffer with service members unable to spend money. If you have a government check such as SSI or disability not deposited or deposited in the wrong account, there won't be an agent to fit it. No customer service for EBT and other government programs. Now, as far as what the Republicans' 8% cut looks like, um, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, they want to cut 1/3 of that. Can you imagine what that's going to do to our healthcare? And here's the ironic one. This also, their 8% cut calls for 800 fewer Border Patrol agents. Isn't that their hot button? We need to shut down the border. But now they want to take out 800 Border Patrol agents. There'll be 300 less railroad inspectors. 35,000 apprenticeships openings will be closed. 60,000 seniors will be cut from Meals on Wheels. 40,000 fewer educators and school staff. There's already a fucking shortage. How much more can you do? $7.5 million cut in federal aid for disabled students. More than 6 million people would be unable to get Pell Grants. 300,000 people would lose their housing vouchers. 20,000 will be veterans. 100,000 will be seniors. 2.1 million women and children will be waitlisted for WIC. 100,000 children will no longer be able to participate in the Head Start program. Democrats and Biden will never sign off on this, but the next time you see a Republican on TV talking about an 8% cut or how we need to cut government spending, no, this is what they're talking about. 8% doesn't sound like a lot, and it may not personally affect you, but it affects the most vulnerable of all of us. We should all care. Thanks. Old Soul. Now, she makes some great points, and that's what I like about Old Soul. Lisa's like this too. They're very detail oriented. You may have noticed I'm not. I speak in general terms. Sometimes I'll have facts and figures, but I'm not as good with the details as the ladies are, and I appreciate the help. Anyway, the next email, the one she forgot to send, is this one. She says, "Hey, Boomer, this is an activist in my community, Roland Martin. He so accurately said Republicans are not pro-life, they are anti-abortion. Truer words have never been spoken because you cannot say you are pro-life when you vote against prenatal care for a mother. You cannot say you're pro-life when you vote against Head Start. You cannot say that you're pro-life when you vote against free lunch in public schools for grades K to 12. You cannot say you're pro-life when you vote against Medicaid to keep hospitals open. You cannot say you're pro-life when you don't have OBGYNs available in every city. You cannot say you're pro-life when you have Black women dying at a higher rate during childbirth and you do nothing, and there's no public policy wise to fix it. You cannot say you're a pro-life when you allow infant mortality rates to be sky high in areas populated by Black and brown people. That's not pro-life. That's anti-abortion. Because if you were pro-life, you would care about the child in the womb and when the child is born. If Republicans were pro-life, they will be standing up when children are slaughtered in schools and will stand with people of color when their children are killed by sworn to protect officers. They wouldn't be silent on any of these issues. They would be writing legislation to fix it if they were pro-life. Pro-life is being pro-life from the womb to the tomb. Republicans say children are mature enough to have forced births, but not mature enough to learn actual history or choose which books they want to read. There isn't any single concession in any Republican CR for children. They only take from women and children. I refuse to call them the pro-life party. It's not about life. It's about control. And we won't allow them to take control of women in this country. Thank you, Old Soul. Well, once again, Old Soul, some compelling and valuable information. And you're absolutely right. Pro-life is not really pro-life. It's a misnomer, if you will. And I remember talking about this. They were going to change it to something else because They thought it'd be better marketing. Now I can't remember what it was. Whatever it was really stupid and doesn't change the fact that they're willing to take women's rights away from them. I really believe that that one topic, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, will be the death knell of the Republican Party in 2024. They took a serious hit in 2022 when it was overturned. But now we've got all this stuff happening in the states where it's virtually outlawed in states. So if the Republicans thought that women were going to forget about this, or the people that support them, the men that support them, are going to forget about this by the time 2024 comes along, you're sadly mistaken. That is not going to work out that way. People are upset about this. People get a little owly when you take away their constitutional rights. And it's going to be right there front and center come 2024, not to mention all the other ridiculous bullshit that the Republicans have done. They are not pro-life. As I say, that's a misnomer. And they are going to pay the price. And once they hit a blue wave in 2024, things are going to change. The Republican Party is going to need to change, or they will just ultimately fade away. All right. On Sunday, Donald Trump lashed out against Mitch McConnell and called other Republicans who aren't actively fighting to shut down the entire government. Trump, who said earlier in the day that he intends to thoroughly scrutinize and limit NBC News and other news agencies if he's reelected in 2024, took to his social network to blast Republicans standing in the way of getting what he wants. What he wants. What's interesting about this is Donald Trump has no official power at this point. He's little more than a private citizen. The only reason he has any power is because the Republicans give it to him. The question is, why do they do that? Because they're scared of him. Because they think if they side with him, they'll gain something, votes or money or whatever. But you'd have to think that by now they're realizing everything he says and does and suggestions he makes are nothing but losers. We saw it in 2022. We'll see it in 2024. I'm afraid it's going to take the Republicans getting wiped out in 2024 before they realize that, maybe we shouldn't stay so close to Donald Trump. It sounds stupid. I mean, these are all things we knew about 4 years ago, but they're having trouble grasping it, or maybe they don't find a way to back out of it without looking foolish. Well, at this point, I would rather be looking foolish than crashing the country and having to take the blame for that. Now, Trump pointed to an earlier failure for the GOP before giving direct instructions on where to go from here. He said the Republicans lost big on debt ceiling, got nothing. And now we are worried that they will be blamed for the budget shutdown. Wrong. Whoever is president will be blamed in this case. Crooked as hell Joe Biden. Wrong. Donald, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Trump said on Truth Social, our country is being systematically destroyed by the radical left, Marxist, fascist, and thugs, the Democrats. Unless you get everything, shut it down, close the border, stop the weaponization of justice, and end election interference. We must have honest elections. See, here's the thing I don't understand, and I'm always confused by how stupid Donald Trump is. He wants to shut the border down, shut the country down, and do all this. How much power do you think the Republicans have? What do they have, like 6 or 7 seats in the House? Majority? That's a pretty small margin. They don't have the majority in the Senate, and they don't have a Republican president. So, Donnie, even if Matt Gaetz came to you and said, yeah, we're going to do everything you want to be done, he still can't do it. It won't get done. The only reason you're flailing about is because you're doing whatever you can do, saying whatever you can say to try to save your ass. Well, Donnie, it's a little late for that. Your ass cannot be saved. I say that and I think about those dirty diapers and I go, oh, Lord, I don't want to be the one that has to save his ass because that would be a dirty fucking job. Anyway, Trump added, it's time Republicans learned how to fight. Are you listening, Mitch McConnell, the weakest, dumbest, and most conflicted leader in the U.S. Senate history? Now, in all caps, he said, he's already given the Democrats everything. They can't believe how lucky they got. We need new and real Republican leadership in the United States Senate, not a clone of Mitch, and we need it now. Now, what does he suppose is going to happen? Everything's going to change. They're going to resign, and his favorite people are going to be put in. And Donnie thinks he knows best as to who should be in the Senate and in the House. It seems to me, Donnie, in 2022, you had a lot of people you endorsed for the Senate and the House. Only thing is they fucking lost. And they lost because you were supporting them. So, how do you expect to get this done? This is how dumb and desperate Dirty Diaper Donnie is. He's a fucking dimwit. He's just saying anything because he's scared shitless. Now, when he comes out and talks on television or in Truth Social, he always puts on a big game face and he's talking loud and proud and like he's confident. All you have to do is really look at him, look at his puffy ass face with his big pores, his red eyes, sweating like a pig, to know this guy is seriously concerned. I think I talked about it in yesterday's show. We know he's concerned because he's asking his people, so what do you think it'd look like if I was put in jail? Would I go to a club fed? Would I have to wear orange? How long would I last there? Well, honestly, Donnie, I don't know where they're going to send you when you go to jail, but make no mistake, you are going to fucking jail. There is no way you're coming out of this clean and green. There's just no way that's going to happen. There's too much up against you. You can't juggle it. You can't divert. You can't distract. You can't delay. You've done that for 6 or 7 years, and now we've come to the end. As I've always said, you can delay and delay and delay, but you can't stop the inevitable. Well, the delaying has pretty much run out, and now you're going to have to deal with your bullshit. We've had to deal with it for 6 or 7 years. Now you're going to have to pay the piper. And it's not going to be pretty. And you can scream and yell and tell the Republicans what they should do, but these motherfuckers cannot agree with themselves. And they don't have the power to get any of this bullshit done. So keep yapping, Donnie. Maybe at some point, a judge like Chutkin or McAfee will hold you accountable for the crap you spew and do something to shut you down. Now, we've talked about this, and either judge could put him in jail, which they seem reluctant to do. They could fine him, but that won't do any good. You just won't pay it. Then you'll have to go after him for the money, and that'll be another court case that'll go on for a long time. There's the possibility of home lockdown where they keep him in Mar-a-Lago or in Bedminster and he couldn't leave. You'd have to take away the internet from him too, because that's the way he gets his words out. The bottom line is something has to be done. Now, somebody said something yesterday, and I thought it was interesting. A dumb idea. And this came from one of the judges, or maybe it was a media guy suggesting it for the judge. But they were supposing that, say, Chutkin would bring him in and say, listen, nothing goes out unless it goes through your lawyers first. You think that's going to work? I mean, as it is, Donald Trump is telling his lawyers what to do, giving them bad information and bad advice, but forcing them to do it even though they know they're going to look stupid or they might get sanctioned or maybe lose their license. Now, if they're willing to go to that extent for Donald Trump, do you really think they're going to try to edit him when he's putting stuff out day to day? Hell, he'll get up at 3 a.m. when everybody's asleep and start Truth Social up and start pumping ridiculous shit out. That's not going to work. If you want Donald Trump to shut up and be shut down, these judges need to do something to force him to do it. Donald Trump is little more than an incorrigible child, and he will not stop until he's made to stop. Hopefully this week or maybe next week, the judges finally come to some resolution to shut this dumb motherfucker up. Because when he's talking like this and stirring the Trump-la-fucks up, he's not doing any good for this country. He's potentially tainting a potential jury, and he's stirring up some people to become violent. I don't think we're going to see the big crowds of violent folks, but we will see individuals, and we know how that works. We just heard about Trump-la-fuck walking toward Joe Biden's house with a few weapons. Now, how many times does that happen before one guy gets too far or too close? I think this is what Donald Trump is hoping for. He keeps wanting to find ways to get rid of or embarrass Joe Biden. But if you get rid of Joe Biden, Donnie, now you're going to have to deal with Kamala Harris. You really want to do that? Your track record with black women has not been good. And Kamala Harris is nobody's fool. I'm guessing she would love to fuck you up. All right. We will take a quick break and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast for this Monday. I'm expecting a busy week and we'll see what happens. I wanted to make an interesting comparison for you. And here's the comparison. We heard about this indictment of Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey. He was apparently accused of taking bribes. They went into his house. They raided his house. They found $100,000 in gold bars, which seems a little sketchy. I don't know, maybe not, but in my book, it's sketchy. I don't know anybody else that has a single gold bar, let alone $100,000 worth of them. But it's interesting, the comparison between Republicans and Democrats. You can see the difference very clearly. Now, on the Republican side of things, you have people like George Santos, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene committing crimes, breaking norms, doing stupid shit. And when that happened, what did the Republicans do? Well, the fact of the matter is they've done jack shit about it. They have done nothing about it. I mean, George Santos has double-digit indictments, and the evidence is pretty clear, but they haven't even censured him, let alone kicked him out. But with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan, these are all people that are doing underhanded, shady, sketchy shit, but the Republicans have done nothing about it. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have the Democrats, and we have this situation with Senator Bob Menendez. And they're handling this a lot different than the Republicans. You see, the Democrats are looking for justice, rule of law. No one's above the law. And starting things out, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Sunday became the first progressive House Democrat to call on Senator Bob Menendez to resign following the former Senate Foreign Relations Committee chair's indictment last week on bribery charges. You didn't hear that from the Republicans, but you're hearing it more and more from Democrats. In fact, I believe the governor of New Jersey has asked for his resignation as well. Now, Menendez and his wife, Nadine, they got them both, were charged Friday with accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes, including gold bars, $480,000 in cash, mortgage payments, and a Mercedes Benz. That Mercedes Benz was a nice frosting on the cake. And these came from businessmen in exchange for influence. The indictment also accuses Menendez of giving sensitive U.S. government information to Egypt's dictatorship. Now, it's funny. George Santos stood up, even though he's a Republican, and he said, "Bob, don't resign. You haven't been found guilty of anything." Yeah, that sounds like our old buddy George, doesn't it? Menendez is going to get some pressure. Whether he will resign or not, I'm not sure. I've got to think he's thinking that being a sitting senator is going to give him some protection, and maybe it will, but I doubt he's going to resign. Everybody's going to ask him to resign because it makes them look good, but will he resign? Frankly, the Republicans don't, so why should a Democrat? Now, appearing on CBS's Face the Nation, AOC said that the situation is quite unfortunate. Yeah, I guess. But I do believe that it is in the best interest for Senator Menendez to resign at this moment. Consistency matters. It shouldn't matter whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. The details in this indictment are extremely serious. They involve the nature of not just his, but all of our seats in Congress. And that was suggested by AOC, who's the vice-ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. Will Bob take AOC's advice? I don't think so. Now, asked for her reaction to Menendez's assertion that some of his congressional colleagues are rushing to judge a Latino and push him out of his seat. Yeah. Go to the race card, you corrupt criminal. Cortez says, as a Latina, there are absolutely ways in which there is systematic bias. But I think what is here in the indictment is quite clear, and I believe it is in the best interest to maintain the integrity of the seat. I couldn't agree more. The evidence is there. He has been indicted. Not unlike George Santos, not unlike anybody else in the Republican side who have gone through similar things. But the Democrats are not feeling the situation, and they're speaking out against Menendez. Now, Cortez joins a growing list of Democrats, including John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, Representative Jeff Jackson of North Carolina, Dean Phillips of my home state of Minnesota, Josh Gottenheimer of New Jersey, Tom Malinowski of New Jersey, Frank Pallone, New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill of New Jersey, Bill Pascrell of New Jersey, and Andy Kim of New Jersey, who are urging Menendez to resign. So he doesn't have a lot of support. It's funny, if you were a Republican, they were saying, oh, he didn't do it. It's a hoax. It's fake news. But the Democrats can see it for what it is. It is sketchy. It is criminal, and the evidence is there. Bob Menendez is going to get convicted on this deal. I mean, just by virtue of having $100,000 worth of gold bars, got to make you think twice about it, wouldn't you think? Now, on Saturday, Andy Kim said he would run for Menendez's Senate seat amid the senator's refusal to resign. Apparently, somebody asked Chris Christie if he would run for that seat, and he said he wouldn't. Probably a good idea. Kim said, I feel compelled to run against him. Not something I expected to do, but New Jersey deserves better. Kim wrote in a fundraising pitch on social media. We cannot jeopardize the Senate or compromise our integrity. While defiantly declaring that he is not going anywhere, Menendez did step down from his chairmanship of the State Foreign Relations Committee, a position he held since 2021. Well, he might as well step down from that because he's going to get his ass kicked out of there. Schumer will take him off every committee he's on. I guess it's better to resign than be fired. Now, following her Face the Nation appearance, Ocasio-Cortez flew to Missouri to stand in solidarity with the striking United Auto Workers members. The Congresswoman said the nation is facing a crisis of inequality while hailing President Joe Biden's planned trip to join UAW workers on the picket line Tuesday as an historic event. And it truly is. You think about this. Joe Biden is the first president in history to go stand with and support a union over the corporations. Now, some people might say that can't be true. There's been a lot of presidents that say they support unions. And yes, that's true. But none of them have done anything more than just talk about it. And here's the problem. The problem is generally presidents don't want to go against big corporations, especially the big automakers, because they have a lot of money. They donate a lot of money to campaigns, and if you step on their toes, you can plan on not getting their money. And so it's a dangerous situation for Joe Biden to come in and potentially lose support from these corporations with all that money. Now, it's funny, when I did a TikTok about this, I had a few people write me and say, well, this is a mistake. This will cost Joe Biden the election. And I had to laugh about that. And on another TikTok, I said, are you not thinking? You think that Joe Biden going to stand with the working people of this country is so egregious that he'll lose votes and he'll lose in 2024. Are you fucking kidding me? So you're telling me that you won't vote for Joe Biden because he's supporting unions and the working people. So instead, you'll go vote for people who tried to overthrow our government. That's fucking ridiculous. That's not the way it's going to go down. It's just not. It's ridiculous to suggest this. I'll tell you how it's going to go down. Joe Biden's doing the smart thing. He's already in a good position come 2024, in spite of what the polls say. I'm tired of listening to the polls. They're just all bullshit. They're trying to manipulate people to think that it's going to be close and maybe dissuade some Democrats from voting. Oh, we're going to lose anyway, so I'm not going to vote. It's an old trick, it's a shitty trick, and it's a trick that's not going to win. They're not going to win with that strategy, I promise you. So Joe Biden is going to stand with the unions. And the one thing you have to understand about this particular strike, this isn't about just the workers for the auto industry. This is really for all workers throughout the country, all unionized workers, because what they're fighting is a bigger fight than just trying to get a few cents raise. What they're fighting about is that they had to take cuts during COVID, and they did. They want to get back to where they were before COVID, and the auto companies are pushing back. They love those profits, and let's be honest, they've been getting record level profits, and they still don't want to give these people money. Ultimately, they're going to have to, because the automakers are losing billions of dollars in this process. Yes, the workers are struggling too, but the automakers aren't coming out of this looking good either. If they can get some kind of agreement, some legitimate, substantial agreement out of the auto makers for the auto workers and get that deal done, that could open the floodgates to other industries, other unions, to use what they did with the auto workers in their respective fields. That's why I think sometimes we may be looking at really a turning point as far as business in this country. It's always been that big corporations want to pay people as little as they can get away with, and they've gotten away with it for a long time. Well, people are waking up all over the country, not only to politics, but to their own well-being, to their careers. It's despicable what big corporations do. They make record profits, they pay bigger bonuses to their top people, and they try to pay less to the people putting in the work. This will expose that. And if the auto workers win, it's going to open the door for other industries and other unions. Now, we'll talk about it later. I just saw that the writers' strike may be settled. So that's going to be interesting to see. But anyway, Joe Biden is going to support the union, much to the chagrin of a lot of politicians who think you should keep bowing to big corporate donators, because that's who they are. But instead, he's standing with the people. He said he is the strongest union president in history. And to be perfectly honest with you, he's fucking right. Nobody had the courage to do this stuff. They talk the talk, but they won't walk the walk. In this case, Joe Biden is going to walk the walk. And frankly, it will have an impact, because with Joe Biden involved, it's going to bring it to a higher level. There's going to be more public opinion involved in this thing. And over and above maybe losing a few dollars an hour, the auto industry really cannot afford to piss off a bunch of people. They're having trouble selling their shit anyway. Now, here's an interesting story. Fox News guest, his name is Clay Travis. He's a right-wing Republican. He's a writer. He's a goofball. But Fox News guest Clay Travis and the host, Misha Cross, disagreed on Sunday over whether former Donald Trump deserves a pardon. During a panel discussion on the Fox News Media Buzz program, Travis argued that President Joe Biden could become a uniter by pardoning Trump. Well, that's an interesting comment. If you're suggesting that Joe Biden should give Donald Trump a pardon, then you must be saying that Donald Trump is in fact guilty of things, in spite of the fact that you've spent months and years telling us that Donald Trump did nothing. You must believe that. And frankly, if Donald Trump does accept a pardon, which is not going to happen, Joe Biden isn't going to give him a pardon. But if Donald Trump did take a pardon, that would be admitting guilt too. If Donald Trump truly understood what it meant, would he still do it? Yeah, probably, because he's a gutless piece of shit. He's a slimy fuck that will try to slide out from everything that will require him to be accountable. Now, Travis went on to say, also pardon his own son. Say, let's go ahead and put it all behind us and let's get going with 2024. Travis opined before complaining, they're trying to put Donald Trump in prison for the rest of his life while he's running to be president of the United States. We've never seen anything like this. Well, that's true. We have not seen anything like this before, nor have we seen anything like a president inciting a bunch of insurrectionists, stealing classified documents, grifting America, and benefiting financially from being president. We've never seen anything like this. So when we have unprecedented things, there needs to be unprecedented reactions. But this is what Republicans always do. When they're cornered, they'll always do this. I had the same experience when I talked to some Trumplefucks on this very show. When they're cornered and there's no way out, they go, we should probably just let this go, put it behind us like it never happened, and just move on. It'll be better for the country. It'll be healthy for the country. This is what they do. Fact of the matter is when we're talking about Donald Trump and trying to overthrow this government, at this stage of the game, the fact that we all know the evidence and the witnesses, the only way to heal this country, for the government to regain the trust of this country, is if they hold Donald Trump responsible and accountable for his actions, and they punish him. If they do anything less than that, that will cause a division in this country. That will cause upheaval, and people will never trust the government again. And frankly, there isn't a lot of trust for our U.S. government as it is. Now, the host, Cross, chimed in by saying, trying to steal an election, we've never seen anything like it. We have also never seen anything in this country like January 6th. Travis said, oh, stop. January 6th is like a pinprick of what happened during the BLM riots. And this one I love. I always hear this argument. Yeah, January 6th, but what about the BLM riots? You're trying to equivocate these two things, and you can't because they're entirely different things. First of all, as far as the BLM riots, we find out now that there were a lot of white supremacists that kind of instigated and kind of got the ball rolling as far as violence. Now, that's not to say there wasn't violence with the riots. I would say most of the rioting wasn't BLM per se, but it might have been people of color. But here's what I don't understand: how you can equivocate these two things. On the Republican side, you have a bunch of dumb fucks trying to overthrow the government. On the other side of the coin, you have people that are angry because police officers are shooting their people in the streets for no reason, illegally. Now, as much as the riots after the killing of George, people were obviously outraged. It wasn't bad enough that they killed somebody who didn't deserve to be killed. He posed no threat at all. But the entire thing was recorded on video, and we all saw this cop killing this man. We watched the moment life left his body. Now, you want to compare those riots to an insurrection. I have to laugh at you. It's a fucking joke. There is no comparison. They're two entirely different things. We don't want either. But you don't get to say, well, BLM did this, so we were fine with trying to overthrow the government. That's ridiculous. Cross said, I'll let you talk. There was a sitting U.S. president who was calling into state offices across the country trying to nullify votes of everyday Americans. She says, there is no amount of pardon that should come from a former president who, one, did not act like a president, and two, did not uphold the values of our democracy, she added. Now, the interesting thing about that is this woman is a moderator on Fox News. That's crazy. That's fucking absolutely crazy. I cannot believe what these people will do or say to try to get their point across. They're just the most horrible human beings we could ever imagine. And since we're talking about horrible human beings, let's talk about one of the worst. Representative Paul Gosar, a Republican from Arizona. Now, this guy's just flat out weird. He's crazy. He's a white supremacist, and he displays it proudly. So Paul Gosar used his weekly email newsletter hosted on a government domain that is funded by American taxpayers on Sunday to launch a thinly veiled homophobic attack on the Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley, shockingly suggesting Milley should be put to death. This is a sitting member of Congress talking about his wishes to put to death Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley. Is he going to get reprimanded? Is he going to get censured? Is he going to get kicked out? No. But you got to believe there's some illegalities here. You would hope there might be an indictment in his future, if not for the January 6th insurrection, for simply threatening a government official, Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, no less. Now, this diatribe came in a section commenting on former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund's testimony to the House Committee on Administration last week, in which Sund discussed the Capitol riot. Sund called the events of January 6th an intelligence failure and said he wished several agencies and individuals from the Pentagon to President Donald Trump had reacted more swiftly to provide backup for local law enforcement. But in Gosar's recantation of the day's events, Representative Nancy Pelosi remained the villain of the riots, though it was Milley, the homosexual promoting BLM activist chairman of the military Joint Chiefs, who delayed the deployment of the National Guard, Gosar claimed. Now, this is an out and out lie, a fucking lie. The Pentagon is the group that oversees the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Nancy Pelosi has no control over the Pentagon. That is the president. The president has that control. And interestingly enough, in the Pentagon, the man in charge, I don't know his first name, but he was Michael Flynn's brother. Just as goofy a motherfucker as Michael Flynn or Paul Gosar. They love to try to spread this information, but it's a flat out fucking lie. And besides that, please explain to me what Nancy Pelosi would gain by holding back the National Guard if she even had the opportunity to do it. Her guy had won the presidency. The electoral votes are going to be counted and certified by Congress, by the Senate. Why would Nancy Pelosi want to disrupt that? Please explain that to me. He goes on to say, of course, we know that the deviant Milley was coordinating with Nancy Pelosi to hurt President Trump and treasonously working behind Trump's back. Gosar wrote in a screed from far removed from the truth. None of it's true. It's all bullshit. In a better society, quislings like the strange sodomy-promoting General Milley would be hung. Wow. Now, Gosar also accused Milley of being a traitor who coordinated with the Chinese military and actively worked against Trump. The attacks echo what Trump himself seemed to wish upon Milley, writing in a Truth Social post on Friday, in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. Former president, a sitting member of Congress, wishing death upon the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, Mark Milley. Now, Milley made two calls to a Chinese general, both before and after the 2020 election. And all he was doing was trying to diffuse tensions between the two nations after China received intelligence that Trump would attack the country. He later told the Senate Armed Services Committee that the calls, which Trump has previously labeled treasonous, were an effort to deconflict military actions, manage crisis, and prevent war between great powers that are armed with the world's most deadly weapons. Now, interestingly enough, about Paul Gosar, one of the most despicable motherfuckers you'll find, it seems that Paul Gosar was one of the several that reportedly sought a preemptive pardon. Why would you need a pardon, Paul, unless you were guilty? You know you're guilty. You know they're coming for you. And wait till the superseding indictments come out. You're going to get a knock at the door and you're going to get an indictment from the FBI. Now, Paul Gosar has a lot of problems. Nobody seems to like him. Certainly no Democrat. Most Republicans think he's a nuts case. Even his own siblings said in a 2021 ad that aired on Fox News, there is no one member of Congress more responsible for the attack on the Capitol than Congressman Paul Gosar. This is his family. His family says he's a fucking criminal. Now, as I was talking about earlier, after about 5 months, after thousands of film and TV writers went on strike over more equitable pay and working conditions in the streaming area, effectively shutting down the entertainment industry, Hollywood studios and streaming executives at a long last have reached a tentative deal with the Writers Guild of America, East and West. Now, in an email to members late Sunday, the union said it had reached an agreement in principle on all deal points subject to drafting the final contract. The union said it will share details about what the union negotiators and studio executives agreed to once the union leadership reviews the final language in the agreement. Now, this is all very good news. A lot of these people were struggling. They weren't able to earn a living for 5 months. Now, goes on to say, what we have won in this contract, most particularly everything we gained since May 2nd, is due to the willingness of the membership to exercise its power, to demonstrate its solidarity, to walk side by side, to endure the pain and uncertainty of the past 146 days. It is the leverage generated by your strike in concert with the extraordinary support of our union siblings that finally brought the companies back to the table to make a deal. The email to members continued, we can say with great pride that the deal is exceptional with meaningful gains and protections for writers in every sector of the membership. You remember that in addition to the writers in support, there were actors out there and all other types in the entertainment industry who have who struck as well in support of their fellow union workers. And from what it sounds like, the writers feel pretty good about what they got. We don't know what it is as of yet, but no doubt we will find out. This it had to be quite devastating for the writers and some of the other people that were supporting them to be without paychecks for that long. Let's hope the deal is good. Let's hope the writer unions are correct, that they got an exceptional deal. They are entitled to get an exceptional deal. The movie industry makes a lot of money, and the writers don't get very much of it. And let's be honest, if not for the writers, there wouldn't be a fucking show. So it makes sense that you pay them accordingly. And let's hope that's the case. We'll be looking to find out what they got. It's getting late. I'm getting tired and starting to mumble. That's all right. That's my charm, right? The motherfucker mumbles all the time. Last story. Representative Lauren Boebert is now defending herself after causing a disturbance in the play Beetlejuice. She was spotted vaping and singing and dancing, and not to mention the groping. Now, Boebert, whose estranged husband, blames himself for their divorce. Well, that's sweet because it sounds like he's a dickhead too. Explained the incident Friday. What happened was I messed up, she told Fox News pundit Jesse Waters. I went on a date night. and I'm a congresswoman and a public figure, but believe it or not, I'm human too. Well, I might debate that. You don't appear human, maybe just subhuman. Obviously, everyone is very interested in my personal life and very difficult divorce. Yeah, blame it on the divorce. Now, the Denver Post reported 3 theater goers at the Buell Theater complained that Boebert and her date were vaping, singing, and recording the musical performance. Subsequent footage appeared to show her groping her date in the dark before being asked to leave. But she's got excuses. They always have excuses. It's been 20 years since I've been on the dating scene, she told Waters. And back then, they were not infrared cameras watching my every move. So, what you're saying, Lauren, is you're not sorry for what you did because apparently you've done it many times in the past. It's just that they had infrared cameras that saw you do the things that you apparently habitually do. And she goes, but it's a lesson learned. As I said, I'm truly humbled and apologize to my people and Colorado's 3rd district, those who I love. Now, Boebert initially claimed she peacefully parted ways with Quinn Gallagher after their date. Kendra Maddock, a drag queen performer at the bar that Gallagher owns, alleged that they have been dating for months. You don't think Boebert lied, do you? Boebert was ultimately skewered on The View for the incident. In defense of Lauren Boebert, who has not gone to a matinee of Beetlejuice, gotten a little overserved, started vaping, got a little handsy with some gotten dragged out, and then flipped the bird to security, co-host Alyssa Farah Griffin cracked Tuesday. Footage of the incident had spread like wildfire amid reports that her date was a Democrat. Boebert catered to her Republican base Monday and told TMZ, all future date nights have been canceled, and I learned to check party affiliations before you go on the date. But as I've said before, we heard that he was a Democrat reported months ago, even though she says this was a first date. Once again, Lauren Boebert is lying, as Republicans do. It's like they're all pathological liars. Isn't it interesting how tough she talks when she talks about Hunter Biden, showing the nude pictures on the House floor, and now she gets caught in something similar. And oh, geez, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. No, bitch, we're not forgiving you. You're a fucking hypocrite. You're a loudmouth, stupid bitch. And you tell me you haven't been on the dating scene for 20 years and you're 36. So that means you got married and had kids at 16. You're not good with decisions. You're not a good decision maker. And that wouldn't make you a very good representative as well. You decided to go to a public event, get drunk, vape, sing and dance, and get to third base or second base with your boyfriend. You're not sorry about any of that up until the time you got caught. And then you tried to deny it, but then of course the video came out, and all you could do is try to be contrite. But nobody believes a fucking word you say because you're constantly lying. You're a hypocritical liar, you're stupid, and you aren't long for the House of Representatives. You're going to get beat in 2024, and you fucking deserve it. And if that's all that happens to you, you're lucky, because you're probably going to be found mixed up in the whole insurrection thing, and you may get an indictment about it then. It'll be interesting to see how she reacts to that. Anyway, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.